You're welcome to the program Talking Points. I am Njide Ezonecha. In the program today, we are interested in what affects majority of our women, the women folk. Talking about preventive techniques against breast and cervical cancers. We know that cancer is quite dreadful, and no one wishes that to happen to even his or her enemy. And that's why we've done our best to bring in a medical practitioner who is passionate about preventing cancer occurrences, especially breast and cervical cancer. We are here in the studio with Dr. Chris Ifediora. Dr. Chris Ifediora is an associate professor of medicine and the president of OCI Foundation. Doctor, we're glad to have you here.
Julia, thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here.
All right. We want to take a critical look at means and ways we can prevent the spread of breast and cervical cancers. And we'll begin the discussion of our talking point today by asking Dr. Ifediora to please educate our listener and viewer about what we ought to know about cancer generally.
Well, cancers are basically, cells in the body that are growing out of control. So that's just a simple way to put it. So, any organ in the body can develop cancer, but what happens is naturally the body system has a way of controlling these growth cells in the body. But when the body loses that control, a cancer usually results.
Okay, so it's generally an uncontrollable growth of certain cells in the body.
Correct. So when it goes out of control, it uses up the body's nutrients and resources, basically, then starving the rest of the body of key ingredients that will keep us alive.
Okay. We are particularly interested in breast and cervical cancers because our women are involved. Women folk are a very important segment of our population regarding the role they play. Not that others are not important, but we want to take a look at what affects our women more now. So, doctor, please, how true is it that only women suffer breast and cervical cancers?
With cervical cancers, 100% true, because only women have the cervix. With breast cancers, not completely true. I mean, over nearly all of them happen in women, but men still do get breast cancers.
Really?
Yes, but only...
But men do not have any protruding breasts?
Well, protruding you said, but they do have breasts, And once the tissues are there, they go out of control. But in any case, less than 1%, of all breast cancers happen in men. So not too many, but it does happen.
It does happen in men, or majority it happens.
Overwhelming majority.
Overwhelming majority is women. Now, I want to know how prevalent these breast and cervical cancers are. Generally, maybe globally.
Yeah, they're fairly common. So let's look at cervical cancers. In 2012, there were about 14,000 cases recorded. I mean, these are the ones that were documented, and about close to 9,000 died. Globally, the problem we have with cervical cancer is that there's a disproportionate burden in developing countries, of which Nigeria is part of. So what you find is globally, for all the cases that happened in the last few years, about 85% were in developing countries. 85%, about 84% of the deaths were in developing countries. So, it's fairly common, but the problem is when it does happen, the results are devastating. Breast cancers are fairly more common, surprisingly, among Caucasian women, among Europeans and Americans. But the problem we have, among them, we have about 1 out of 8 women having breast cancer.
It's quite high.
Yeah, in Nigeria, the records are not very clear. However, it's on record that the rates are increasing, among us, blacks. Partly because we are beginning to westernize our lifestyles. Most of our women, don't have children till they're in their 30s. Most of them choose not to breastfeed. Most of them smoke. All these lifestyles increase and, bring our risk closer to what it is in developed countries.
Okay, although you've already started giving us some answers to the next question, but basically, what are the predisposing factors that make women or even this 1% of men have cancers, breast and cervical?
Okay, so let's get breast cancers first. Things that would promote healthy lifestyles generally prevent cancers. So when you have a woman who breastfeeds, so breastfeeding tends to be protective against breast cancers. Anything that increases the female hormone in the body, can predispose to that. So when you have, when you start your periods early or late, that can predispose. So any girl that starts the period before the age of 11 or has the periods going into, beyond 55 years of age. Smoking, things, inactivity and stuff like that, but it's mainly being female, having protruding breasts, if I should borrow your expression. For cervical cancer, it's a bit more straightforward because there's an organism that causes it. All right, it's called the Human Papillomavirus. Now, even though we know it causes it, the majority of the HPVs, that's the abbreviation for it, do not actually cause problems in women. Only 2 of them out of about 100 do cause cervical cancers. And that virus is sexually transmitted. And the risks are higher for a woman who's very young and gets exposed to sexual activity. So the younger you are, you experience the sexual activity, the more chance you are to get the virus. Multiple sexual partners also can increase the risk of cervical cancers. Unprotected intercourse, like not using condoms, can. And then there's a few other lifestyle factors like smoking and stuff like that. Something I forgot that's very important. Well, very important. Family history of breast cancers can also increase the risk, even though the majority of the women who end up having it may not have any family history of that. So these are some of the things in a nutshell that can increase the risk of both cancers.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Chris Ifediora. Well, I want to know, before we take a short break, whether these cancers are curable.
I'll be cautious in using the word curable. I mean, they are treatable, depending on the stage. Depending on the stage. So if you pick them up early, then yes, you can actually cure them. So if you pick up breast cancer that's localized in the breast, there's a good chance that your doctor can treat it. If they remove it, they pick it up early. Same with cervical cancer. If they screen you and find the virus before it transmits, it takes 10, 20 years before it actually becomes cancer for cervical cancer. At that stage, yes, it can be. The problem we have in Nigeria and most of the developing countries is that most times we pick these cancers up when they're already advanced, so it becomes uncurable, it becomes incurable. And, that's part of why some, organizations do try to enlighten our women.
Thank you so much. Well, we'll take a break here. When we return, we continue our discussion on preventive techniques against breast and cervical cancers. Don't go away, please. Thanks for joining us again. In case you just joined, the program is Talking Point, and today we are looking at preventive techniques against breast and cervical cancers. And we are in the studio today with Dr. Chris Ifediora, an associate professor of medicine and the president, OCI Foundation. Just before the break, Dr. Chris was talking about the interest of different organizations to prevent the spread of cancers. So we want you to please tell us what you think should be done and how groups and concerned organizations should help to fight this menace or scourge of cancer.
In an ideal world, and we do have such ideal places in some places of the world, the right thing will be, to prevent it, using vaccinations for those that can have vaccinations, screen for it, so catch it early and treat it, and then have ways of treating it when it does happen. So these are the 3 key things. But as we all know, the world is not very ideal, particularly in the developing countries, particularly in a country like Nigeria, because these measures I mentioned are actually very obtainable outside here We don't find them in Nigeria, for different reasons. So what organizations have done is to find a way to empower our women. So if we can't find a way to, vaccinate them, to screen them, to treat them, then let's empower them, all right? Let's give them the resources they need to look after themselves. If we let them know the risk factors for these cancers, if we let them know the symptoms and they pick it up early so they don't have to see their doctors when it's already too late. If they need to know that there's a need to have it treated and where to get that treatment. So that's what empowerment campaign is all about. And ironically, that's about all we have in Nigeria. I mean, only very few do get the treatments they desire. So when we're left with nothing, then empowerment becomes about all we have. So empowering them, empowering our women is the way to go till we have the measures in place.
I like what you just said. Empowering our women is the way to go till we have a permanent cure, so to say, about cancers of any kind. And since we are today focusing on breast and cervical cancers, I'm aware that a group known as OCI Foundation, of which you are the president and founder, is championing a campaign to educate our young girls about how they can prevent breast and cervical cancers. And now that you're here, could you just tell us something about what the OCI is doing with the ArOY campaign?
Thank you very much for that question. So we started off like every other organization, which is to empower our women. The only thing we did differently in the last 2 years was to focus on young girls. However, I'm trained to evaluate everything I do. So what we've done is to evaluate what we've been doing in the last 2 years. And we found some very interesting things that informed the ArOY campaign. So first of all, we found that the young girls we were educating were very keen. They have very positive attitude to these preventive measures. So they were keen to learn. But then we found out that they have no means to learn. All right? We found out that not their teachers, not in their schools, not at homes, not in the churches, not on the internet. They have basically nowhere to learn. So we have a mix of someone who wants to learn and nowhere to learn. And we began to think, all right, so what if we put this in the curriculum? All right, that means, the way you're taught about everything, it gets automatically taught to every young child in Nigeria. So that was the first thing we thought about. Then we also realized that after 6 months of what we did, the knowledge is still there, but it begins to wane. So we have to find a way to make sure there's engagement, that long after we've gone, these girls still retain the knowledge. And that's where we've been getting it wrong before now. That's where most organizations have been getting it wrong. Because what they've done is teach them, they go away, and that's it. 2 years later, there's no knowledge. It becomes useless. So what the ArOY campaign is all about is to find a way to correct these measures. So first of all, we're focusing on young girls because, like I mentioned with cervical cancer, the roots of this cancer happen in the mid-teens to late teens. So if you
mid-teens to late teens.
Yes, and this is when most girls are in high schools, in senior secondary schools. All right, so if we get in at that stage, we have a good chance. The second thing is put in the curriculum, empower everyone. It becomes a seamless approach to doing it. So you don't have to have a big hall with big money, with expensive measures to do it. It trains the teachers, it's part of their routine, everyday job, everybody learns about it. And we also have to include boys because, particularly for cervical cancers, the pressure comes from men. And then every man has a woman in his or her life. You can either have a mother or a sister or a girlfriend or an auntie or a grandma. There must be a girl in your life. So the more you empower everyone, the good chance you're going to have this. Everyone learn what to do. And the last thing we've done with the ArOY campaign is to find a way to ensure that engagement. So what we've done is we're going to repeat the teaching. So it's not going to be a one-off. So if you're in SS1, you're going to get taught. If you're in SS2, it's going to be repeated. If you're in SS3, it's going to be done. And beyond that, what we've also done is to make sure there's a way to assess them. Because we realize that there's an exam everybody reads. You retain them. So imagine having a child get taught in SS1, get examined on it, and the score counts towards the subject. And then have it repeated again in SS2 and repeated again in SS3. I mean, it's almost impossible that the person is going to forget it beyond the 4 walls of the school.
Interesting. I believe the viewer is getting more interested in this discussion, just as I am. But one thing you said here that just struck me, that you're interested in the young girls who are exposed to these problems in their early teens and their late teens. Why have you chosen to arm the young ones?
Well, because if we wait till they get to 20, it will be late. All right, let me give you an instance. All right, the studies we've done show that in Nigeria, about 80% of our women in higher institutions are sexually active. All right, and like you heard me say, cervical cancer is sexually transmitted, the virus causing it. Now, 80% or more are. So if you wait till then, you would have lost about 80 out of every 100 women. Now, if you come down to those under 20 that are not in, whether they're in higher institutions or not, more than half, about 57% are sexually active. If you go down to 16, 17 years, only 16% are sexually active. So if you wait between that 16 and 20 years is a critical window for us. All right? If you wait till they're in their 20s, you lose more than 80%. If you catch them when they're 16, 17, you save more than 85%. So that's why we have to do it at this stage. And I have to say, this is actually about the first time anywhere in the world this program is coming about. And we built it from evaluating what we've done in the past. So it's our idea, and it's been peer-reviewed, it's been proven to work, and we believe that, starting with Anambra from tomorrow, and then beyond Anambra.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Chris. Now, you said what you're doing is peer-reviewed, and perhaps you have the support of relevant stakeholders. Who are giving you this support?
Well, we've got some international support. So, even though the ideas are ours, but the ideas have to be fine-tuned. We have to make sure this is going to work. We have to make sure it meets international standards. So, the idea was submitted during my program with the Harvard Medical School. They loved it. They gave a very strong endorsement letter to it. So we have that support from the Harvard Medical School. In fact, they took their time to give us ideas. This issue about having to examine it, have to make sure the engagement is there and is sustained over years. It came from them. So they helped us there. We have an endorsement from them. Now, beyond them, we have the Griffith University School of Medicine, which I'm part of in Australia. So they are the ones that are going to help us with evaluating the program going forward. So over the next 12 months, we have a study, a randomized control study that's attached to this program. So they also have given the ethical approval for this program. So we have an endorsement from them as well.
Quite interesting. For the benefit of those who are no longer young, who may not be able to receive these teachings, and for whoever that cares, in a short way or summarily, what do you teach these young ones?
All right, so it's like, in the beginning, I try to explain the best way to handle cancer is to, vaccinate if you can, screen if you can, treat when they happen. But in this part of the world, it's not happening. We've heard it's going to happen, but it's not happening yet. So what we've tried to do is to empower them, tell them three major things. First of all, what are the risk factors? What do you need to do to prevent this? Many women, like the research we did, showed that virtually none of them knew what the risk factors are. If they know what the risk factors are, they will take measures to prevent them. That's number one. The number two is the early symptoms of this cancer. So when they happen, part of why we have high death rates in Nigeria and developing countries for those who contract these illnesses are that what you find is they go to their doctors quite late. Now, if we empower the women to know what the symptoms are, they'll go to their doctors very early. And that's part of what we are doing.
So what are these symptoms?
All right. For cervical cancer, you wouldn't believe it. In most cases, there's no symptom.
Really?
Yes. Most women with cervical cancer have no idea they have it.
What about the breast cancer?
Well, breast cancer, fairly straightforward. Most times, you wouldn't know. But majority of the cases, there will be a lump. Then there could be changes in the skin, either in the nipple or in the rest of the breast skin. And it could just be an armpit lump. So most women may find a lump in their armpit and they ignore it. But now, if we empower them, they will know. Find such a lump, see a doctor. I mean, if it gets advanced, even with cervical cancer, the symptoms begin to get obvious, like bleeding, with intercourse and stuff like that.
Right. I've heard about breast self-examination, shortly described as BSC. Can you tell us something about that BSC now?
Yeah, so BSC, there's a lot of controversy with it. I'll come to that later, but breast self-examination is one way women are trained or encouraged to examine their breasts. Now, the general knowledge or general belief is to do it every month, all right? But there's been some research that's questioning that if it really works or not. But the reality is this. More than 80% of breast lumps are found by women themselves. More than 50% of breast cancers were picked up by women themselves. in a country like Nigeria, that's about the only tool we have to pick these things up early. So we encourage that. We don't say it works 100%, but it's something that we strongly, recommend. And it's supposed to be done at a particular time of the month after your cycle. And part of what we are doing is to train people how to do it well.
Well, before we end, I'd like you to please talk to our people in our own mother tongue, Igbo language. Chekona tekola yoku ni na ene kufe gbasalo ka e ga-esi gbochi kansa nke na-eme ụmụ nwaanyị ọkachasị kansa ara na kansa ọnụ akpa nwa nke oyibo na-akpọ cervical cancer. Chịkọtala anyị mbọ a na-agba ibenata ya n'asụsụ Igbo.
Ndị be anyị ekene m ụnụ. Ife gbasara kansa bụ ife gbasara onye ọbụla ma nwoke ma nwaanyị. Ụmụ nwoke nwere kansa nkefa, ụmụ nwaanyị nwere nkefa. Mana ebe anyị dị na ntata bụ ife gbasara kansa ụmụ nwaanyị na-abụ. Enwe ife na-ebute kansa. And ife anyị na-agba mbọ ya bụ ka onye ọbụla mara onye bụ ife na-ebute kansa. Onye na-enwere ike igbochi ya, maka na ọbụgodị na ịmara ife na-ebute ya bụ kansa mee nye, ọ bụrụ iwu bụ na kansa ama mbịa. Mana part of ife anyị na-agbakwu mbọ ya bụ ka onye ọbụla mmalụ ka ọ ga-esi wee fụ ya bụ kansa gboo. Maka na ifu ya gboo, enwe ezigbo ohere na ị ga-ana ya bụ ije. So mbọ anyị na-agba bụ ka akụzielu ndị mmadụ ife ka a ga-esi wee gbayalịa dị na ọ bụgodị na ibute ya ka ịmalụ mgbe ị ga-eji wee fụ dọkịta gị. So ọnya bụ mbọ anyị na-agba, and anyị nwelụ ka anyị ga-esi wee megasị ya. Amụrụ mma ya nwere ohere ịkọwa ife niile a, mana unu gee ntị. OCI Foundation, unu jee na website anyị.
Thank you so much. At least he has tried to summarize what we are saying in Igbo language. Still in Igbo, kedu ife unu na-akọwalụ, kedu ife unu na-akụzizili ndị mmadụ? What do you recommend? Sokwe ya n'Igbo.
Okay, ife gbasara breast cancer, ife anyị na-ekwu bụ ka onye ọbụla na-enene onwe, ụmụ nwaanyị na-enene onwe fa ọnwa ọbụla. So onye bụ BSE a njide kwuo maka ya, breast self-examination. Malụ ka ị ga-esi nene, malụ ife ị ga na-achọ, malụ mgbe ị ga-eji nene ya, malụ ka ị ga-esi nene ya, malụ ka ị ga-esi wee nọlụ wee nene anya. Then kọwalụ ndị mmadụ ụfọdụ ife na-egbochi ya, like inye nwa ara, rapụ ụfọdụ ọgwụ ga-ebutegasị ya, ụfọdụ birth pills. Ọ bụrụ na ọ na-ebute ya, mana ọ nwere ike increase the risk for ndị nwere ya. Then ndị befa butere ya bụ nwee breast cancer, malụ ugbo na ọ nwere ike ịdị transmitted, enwere ike nna ebunye ya nwa. So ọ bụrụ na enwe onye nwere ya bụ na ibido gboo chọọ dọkịta. So ụfọdụ mefe a bụ ife a na-akụzi maka ya. Nke gbasara cervical cancer, ife anyị na-akụzi bụ na a na-esi na ndị na-ekọ nwoke na nwaanyị ebute ya, ka ụmụ nwaanyị malụ ka fa ga-esi wee mee wee gbayalị ya. So ọ ife a bụ ways anyị na-akwado ka anyị kụzie ka onye ọbụla wee malụ ife ọ ga-eme.
Daalụ rinne. Ọ dị ka a ga-asị na oge anyị ezugo. So that's why we are going to call it a day at this point, talking about this program for today, Talking Point, focusing on preventive techniques against breast and cervical cancers. We've really been enriched with our dear Associate Professor Chris Ifediora. He has done so much with his campaign group, enriching women, educating women, promoting preventive techniques against breast and cervical cancers. And that's why he is here today to share his ideas with us. Doctor, please, before you leave, what advice do you have for our viewer?
Well, I mean, we've talked about cancers generally and what to do and what not to do. The only is going forward, engage with any campaign you're aware of. For the OCI Foundation, we have a mobile phone application, and that's a one-stop area where you can have all the information you want about breast and cervical cancers. So the OCI Cervi Breast app, it's available on the Google Play Store, and will also be available on the Android store soon. It's free to download. You don't have to pay anything. And for women, it's designed to give you reminders that's fairly customized to an individual woman. So you customize it to suit you. Then every month you get a reminder. And if you forget how to do it, it teaches you how to do it. So I suggest that everyone should look for the app and download it, and then tell everyone about it and get it in your phone.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Chris. Thank you, dear viewer, for being part of this show today. Don't forget to join us same time, same station next week. I am Jide Ezonija. Please, every woman out there should begin early from teens to examine her breast. Tell your friends, tell your mother, tell every woman around you so that we'll arm ourselves and be healthy. Healthy citizens make for wealthy citizens. I want to thank Dr. Chris Ifediora for coming.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for all you're doing for our young women and for our youth generally.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye for